Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Day's podcast along with a new video. So today we are going to talk about another new artist, because I've already talked about a few new artists so far, so we will be talking about them more in their albums respectfully, and maybe even some things on the Patreon too. So like and subscribe. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching as well, and let's get into it. So today we are talking about Whitney Houston, her debut album. So Whitney Houston is the debut album by Whitney. It was released February 14th, 1985 by Arista Records. The album initially had a slow commercial response, but began gaining more popularity in mid-1985. It eventually topped the Billboard 200 for 14 weeks in 1986, generating 3 number one singles: Saving All My Love for You, How Will I Know, and Greatest Love of All on the Billboard Hot 100, which made it both the first debut album and the first album by a solo female artist to produce 3 number one singles. And at this time, you know, we already heavily had Michael and Prince just dominating, and we had Madonna as well dominating. So it was just like, who's next? You know, and here she is. Janet, of course, had 2 albums already previously out. They weren't commercially successful, though. Within a year of this album, Janet, of course, had released Control, and they were friends. Let's keep that all the way real. The album topped the charts in many countries, including Canada, Australia, Norway, and Sweden, while peaking at number 2 in the United Kingdom, Germany, and Switzerland. The album was certified diamond for shipments of 10 million units or more on March 16th, 1999, and later 14 times platinum by the Recording Academy by January 27th, 2023, with sales of over 30 million copies worldwide. Legend. Whitney Houston is one of the best-selling albums of all time, as well as the best-selling debut album by a female artist. So, as well as the best-selling debut album by a female artist to this day. That's great. In 1986, at the 28th Grammy Awards, Whitney Houston received 4 nominations, including Album of the Year, and won Best Pop Vocal Performance Female for Saving All My Love for You. For the 29th Grammy Awards of 1987, the album earned 1 nomination for Record of the Year for Greatest Love of All. The album has ranked on Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time in all 3 editions. In honor of its 25th anniversary, the album was reissued as Whitney Houston, the Deluxe Anniversary Edition, on January 26, 2010, and expanded edition with 5 bonus tracks, including the a cappella version of How Will I Know, the original 12-inch remixes, a booklet on the history of the original album, along with a DVD of live performances and interviews by Whitney Houston and Clive Davis. On June 30th, 2020, after the 35th anniversary celebration in February 2020, the album is reissued as a double vinyl, including the singles from Whitney Dancing Special. Also, they released a box set including the 40-page hardcover photo in their book. So this was serious, you know. Jermaine Jackson produced and recorded duets with Houston for the album. Okay. So the singles were Hold Me. Well, you know what? Well, first of all, Hold Me, the first single, was May 24th, 1984. This song, the Hold Me, is 40 years old as a single, okay? Listen, and that was before 85. That was the first single. So let's talk about the background, okay? After seeing Houston perform at a New York City nightclub, Clive Davis believed the singer had the potential to cross over and be the next big superstar. He signed her in 1983, and the two began work on her debut album. Initially, Davis had a hard time finding songs for her. Even after elaborate showcases in New York and Los Angeles, many producers turned down the chance to work with her. And that's something, because she has an amazing voice. And in the 80s, you know, they were so used to the quick, and it's like she wanted to really just sing, like just go off, and they weren't ready for that. And there was only so many people that they would have that commercially do that in a way where it was still like, you know, getting you grooving. And she wanted to break that mold, and she did. She literally did. It took a year and a half for Jerry Griffith, then Arista's A&R chief, and the one who had recommended Houston to Davis, and Davis to amass suitable songs for the album. Finally, the songwriter-producer Kashif offered to produce You Give Good Love. Jermaine Jackson, who had emerged from the shadow of his younger brother Michael, produced 3 songs. Narada Michael Walden revised and then produced How Will I Know. Michael Masser covered the pop side of the tracks, producing 4 of his own compositions, including Saving All My Love for You and Greatest Love of All, which had originally been recorded in 1977 by George Benson as The Greatest Love of All, and was the main theme of the 1977 Muhammad Ali biopic, The Greatest. After 2 years of recording, the album was ready for release. Budgeted at $200,000, it ultimately cost almost $400,000. It was said in her movie I should say, even with like what I've said in Michael's previous albums and movie, like just what there was a thing with labels that they would have a small budget, but then more money was made based on the progress to put towards that. Well, I wouldn't say made, but you guys get what I'm saying. Like, there was a budget that exceeded the amount, and I'm seeing a pattern here. Whereas, you know, if I'm budgeted $200,000 and I needed double the amount, you know, that's just on the sense of how much it took too. And you know, that it just speaks to me that there was only so much that was able to really be looked at to say this is how much it will be taking, when it was just like the budget could have been a bit more. And they realized over time, like, you know what, we're gonna just ultimately just put more into this. And it's like, yeah, like, this is costing. So yeah, Whitney Houston received generally positive reviews from critics, with praise for Houston's vocal prowess, although some criticism of the album's pop criticism of the pop nature of the album, pretty much. In a positive review for the New York Times, along with an appealing romantic innocence, Houston projects the commanding dignity and elegance of someone far more mature. And someone also said arrangements frequently border on formulaic. I don't know what this word is, but in other words, but such ballads as Saving All My Love for You, Greatest Love of All, and Hold Me are some of the loveliest pop singing on vinyl since the glory days of Diane Warwick. Los Angeles Times complimented Houston on her excellent vocal ability, writing neither the frequent listless arrangements nor the sometimes mediocre material of this debut LP hides the fact that Houston is a singer with enormous power and potential. See, they had some criticism going on, like, you know, just say the album's great, child. Like, don't do her like that. And you see how I'm unbiased. I thought it was a great album. Commercial performance. Released on February 14th, 1985, Whitney Houston debuted on the Billboard top charts the week of March 30th, 1985 at number 166. Sales were slow initially. However, with the success of the first single, You Got Love. You Got Good Love. Sorry, y'all. With the success of the first single, You Give Good Love, the album began climbing the charts and finally reached the #1 spot on the Billboard Top Black Albums chart in June, and in the top 10 for Billboard 200, formerly Top Pop Albums, in August 1985. Yes. After 55 weeks, successive hit singles with Grammy wins led to the album eventually topping the album chart in March 1986. It was the slowest climb to the top of the charts since Fleetwood Mac took 58 weeks to reach the top in 1976. So this is something that's happened before, where over time people was really buying an album and was like, this is great, I'm gonna tell my friend, and then that friend told their friends, and then their friends told their friends, and eventually it's like, all right, you're going off. And it's like, you know, it's a similar effect with Off the Wall. Unfortunately, Off the Wall, I was like, wait a minute, it didn't go #1. Like, what do you mean sales were not full? Like, if there was only a couple more sales before it could have went #1, and y'all just weren't here for it. Like, what do you mean Off the Wall didn't go #1? So that's, you know, another thing. So, you know, 166 compared to, I don't know, if I think Off the Wall was 3, or just it was in the top 10 debuting, but it was just like, huh? Or like, this is wild. But yeah, Whitney Houston spent 14 non-consecutive weeks at the top of Billboard's 200 chart from March until late June 1986, which was short for a 1 week of Carole King's record of 15 weeks for the longest #1 album by a female artist at the time. It was the second longest #1 album among the debut albums in Billboard history, behind Men at Work's Business as Usual, which had 15 weeks on top in 1982 through 1983. The album remained on the Billboard 200 for 162 weeks. It also spent 46 weeks in the top 10, equaling Carole King's record for Tapestry. This record was broken in the 1990s. Houston's debut was the best-selling album of 1986 in the United States and the #1 album of the year in 1986 Billboard year-end charts, making her the first female artist to earn that distinction. She became also the #1 pop artist of the year according to Billboard. The Recording Academy certified it diamond on March 16, 1999, and later 14 times platinum on January 27, 2023, for shipments of 14 million copies of the album in the United States. The album was a success worldwide. In the United Kingdom, it peaked at #2, spending 119 weeks on the chart. You know, just it really is a legendary album. And there was touring to further promote her debut album in the first U.S. top 5 pop and #1 R&B single, You Give Good Love. Houston went on tour performing at clubs, theaters, and festivals. By August 1985, she was featured as a support act on selected dates by singers Luther Vandross and Jeffrey Osborne on individual tours. The following summer of 1986, her album generated 3 U.S. Hot 100 toppers. Houston embarked on the Greatest Love tour, performing shows in North America, Europe, and Japan. So, yeah. At first, she was pretty much touring with other artists and really building the fact that, hey, I'm out here, I'm not going anywhere. And, you know, then she was able to do her own tour. And a lot of people do that now to this day. They don't just jump out and tour, you know, sometimes they just tour with other people, or they make an appearance and then they tour, you know. So the track list is You Give Good Love, which is track 1. Track 2 is Thinking About You. Track 3 is Someone For Me. Track 4 is Saving All My Love For You. Track 5, Nobody Loves Me Like You Do, which is with Jermaine Jackson. Track 6 is How Will I Know. Track 7 is All At Once. Track 8 is Take Good Care of My Heart with Jermaine also. Track 9 is Greatest Love of All, and track 10, which is Hold Me, which is a duet with Teddy Pendergrass. So there was 10 songs. There was remixes for the deluxe when it came to the 25th anniversary. There was one track on the bonus DVD where there's, video I should say, conversations with Whitney Houston and Clive Davis. There's the next number, which is Home, I Am Changing, You Give Good Love, You Give Good Love, as far as live, and the promo music video. So there was a music video release as far as by 2010, I believe. And then as far as just the charts, as far as the UK, number 2, Swiss, number 2, Swedish albums, number 1, US, number 1, top R&B, hip hop, number 1, number 1 in Canada, number 1 in Italian. Japan said number 4, they needed more time. Australian, number 1, Austrian, number 9, French, number 13. They, still need more time too. She South Africa, number 1, Norwegian, number 1. She went off. And this was just the beginning of what she was able to do, because there's more albums. And when she started to want to creatively do things more, it really took her to a higher success than she even believed. And she was happy. And we will talk more about that in the next videos to come for her albums. So guys, that's the end of our video / episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll be back